everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com.
Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Erik, checking in from Medellin, Colombia, and today we are going to be talking about Starwood and Marriott. We've got a big merger that has just been finalized as of last Friday. There is basically no stopping this. It is going through, and some exciting updates and changes announced right off the bat, including the ability to transfer points between the two programs. So we're going to jump into what changed immediately, talk a little bit about reciprocal benefits, earning status, and a bunch of new arbitrage opportunities that opened up now that you can transfer one Starwood point into 3 Marriott points. But before we get into that, I've got some news and updates for you as well. And show notes for today's episode will be at abroaders.com/Marriott, which is MARRIOTT. So Marriott, MARRIOTT. Okay, so jumping into the news and updates, most importantly here, I wanted to cover a bit of very, very difficult to come by availability that has come to our attention. It is from San Francisco to Auckland. Now, I will tell you that similar to the ones that we talked about last week, these have been published on a couple of big blogs, so it may dry up relatively quickly. If you remember from last week's show, we talked about EVA Airways out of Taipei and their routes to the U.S. with great business availability. And we also talked about Qantas availability on routes from Japan to Australia. And so today it is United Metal, and that's on their newly opened route from San Francisco to Auckland. Generally, the availability is at the end of the schedule. So this is like the dates that are just opening up for July and August of 2017. But availability is pretty good. Most of the available dates are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. There's a few Saturdays as well. I think August is a little bit better than July right now, and a lot of these dates have seats for 2. So this is good for you if you're traveling with a companion. And again, these are really hard to find generally. So keep in mind, you may need to position to San Francisco, and especially booking with United, keep in mind that you're going to pay about $70,000 one way for business class. And if you don't see that rate, it's because you're getting a non-saver seat, potentially with your connecting flight. So in other words, if you've got to fly from Detroit like AJ and I do to get to San Francisco, you may need to book that separately just to protect the rate on the 70,000 is what it should cost to get to New Zealand. And so, if you see that from a connecting city in the US, great. It should be included because it's a zone-based chart. But if you don't see that rate, it doesn't necessarily mean the availability is not there. I think you want to start with searching just the single segment, San Francisco to Auckland. And then once you've verified that it's there, try and connect your other city. And if it won't work, you can book that separately. Good luck. Please do follow up and let us know if you are successful at booking one of those tickets. Next up, we have a increased sign-up bonus for the Chase Ink Cash business card. So this is sort of the little brother card to the Chase Ink Plus business card. This is the no annual fee version. And so it's actually a great way to avoid the annual fee on the Ink Plus is to convert into this Ink Cash. But the Ink Cash does have its own sign-up bonus. The major difference here is that you cannot convert the points earned with this card and transfer them to partners unless you have one of the premium cards like the Sapphire Preferred, Sapphire Reserve, or the Ink Plus. So the Ink Cash is sort of like the Freedom Card in the sense that it's basically treated as a cash equivalent unless you have one of the premium cards, and then you can transfer those points. However, this could be attractive, especially for folks who aren't in the position that they can reach the $5,000 spend in 3 months that's required by the Ink Plus for the higher sign-up bonus. So instead of 20,000 points, you're going to get 30,000 points after spending 3,000 in 90 days. Now, keep in mind, this is marketed as a cashback card, so it's going to say $300 after spending 3,000 in 90 days, but really you're getting 30,000 ultimate rewards points, which can be transferred if you've got one of the premium other cards. So we'll put a link to that sign up if you're interested, and this is actually one of the ones that we receive a commission if you get approved through our link. So again, don't do this one if you can get the Ink Plus. That's a better deal. But if this is a good fit for you, we definitely appreciate the support. All right, next up, we've got a new Starwood transfer partner. And so this goes along nicely with some of the other stuff we're going to be talking about later in the episode. This was announced last week. Starwood has added Avianca, which is Colombia's national carrier based in Bogota and has routes, lots of good routes around South America. Also is a program that's known for selling miles. So you've heard us talk about bonuses. I believe there's still a 140% bonus if you buy a huge number of Avianca Life miles. Overall, pretty good program. They've loosened some of the restrictions that were nasty in the past, that you couldn't combine, for example, a business class flight and a first class flight on the same premium redemption. They would kind of force you to find all business class or all first or all economy. That rule has been taken out of there. And so generally a pretty good Star Alliance mileage program. The other big benefit is that they don't add on fuel surcharges to any of the carriers. So it's a way to potentially get access to some of the Star Alliance carriers that have substantial fuel surcharges at really good prices. So I think this is a really powerful transfer partner. Again, it's number 36 for Starwood. Certainly hope this lasts for some time. There really hasn't been any information about whether transfers will continue to be in place after the Marriott merger finalizes. Now, we talked about at the top of the show, the merger is definitely going through, but it's probably going to be about a 2-year process for everything to fall into place. So we're looking at maybe 2018 before we see all of the integration happen. So as far as SPG stands right now, we're going to talk a bunch more about how it now relates to Marriott. But for now, if you have SPG miles, you can transfer them to Avianca Life miles, and it's a pretty good transfer partner. I'm not sure what the transfer times are, so if any of you guys decide to check that out, typical for Starwood, they tend to advertise that it takes up to 2 weeks. In my experience, most of the transfer programs are around 3 days or a little bit less, but there are definitely some exceptions. So would love to hear back from you guys as well about that, and let us know how long it took for those points to transfer for you. Next up, we've got a new route. This is Finnair opening up San Francisco to Helsinki. The route is seasonal, so it's going to be just from June 1st to September 28th. Reason this matters is it's really good news for folks that want to travel to Europe, especially from the West Coast, obviously, and avoid British Airways fuel surcharges. So most of the good routes from the West Coast are going to be like LA or San Francisco to London, and that's on British Airways. That's going to cost a lot of money in fuel surcharges, like $600 on an economy ticket. On the other hand, Finnair does not have those fuel surcharges. The taxes and fees are generally really reasonable. Just for reference, existing Helsinki, that's their main hub, is Helsinki. Existing U.S. routes are New York, Philadelphia, Miami, and Chicago. So adding San Francisco is definitely a significant increase in Finnair traffic to the U.S. And taxes and fees are generally going to be about $40 round trip, and that applies to business or economy. So if you can make this work, if you can make Helsinki your European hub, it's a little bit further, obviously, than London. So you're going to be flying a little further, tacking on maybe an hour or two to your total travel time to connect to your final destination in Europe. However, this can be a really nice savings and a great opportunity to book business class. Also a pretty high quality business class product. I haven't flown it personally, but I've heard some pretty nice reviews, definitely in the upper echelon, and I would take it over American just on what I've heard for sure. As far as searching for availability, American Airlines website does display Finnair availability, so you can use that, but I will warn you that it's really hard to separate out the British Airways flights. And so while American has the calendar view, which is super nice to be able to see what dates are available, you're not going to necessarily be able to distinguish which flights are showing you between San Francisco and Helsinki via London and the direct Finnair availability. Now, it is true that sometimes on the left-hand side, you can actually choose to just have direct flights, but I haven't been able to make that hack work all the time. So anyways, British Airways is your backup. If you're having trouble getting American to display that information, you might consider using British Airways website. That'll also show you Finnair availability. All right, last from our news and updates section is a bonus on IHG points. This is ending in 2 days. So today is the 28th of September, and this is going to be over on the 30th. So you've got 2 days till the deadline. Maximum points purchase is 60,000 points from IHG. That's just a program rule, and the minimum is only 1,000. The great news about this is that you get the 100% bonus for buying miles, even at the minimum purchase. So if you buy 1,000 miles, you get 2,000 miles. That's a really nice deal. I hate the tiered things that you have to buy a ton of miles. It's really tough if you don't have deep pockets and can really save and wait to get the return on that investment. So this comes out to 0.675 cents per point. Pretty good deal. The best redemptions with IHG are going to be the points breaks, which are 5,000 points per night. So you can see right there, you're going to get a really, really good deal on a hotel if you can buy points at 0.67 cents per point and then redeem a hotel for 5,000 points. But beyond the points breaks, there's also some really good deals and some really nice properties in the IHG network, and all of their award pricing is pretty reasonable. So I'm going to add some links in the show notes to the current points breaks, also the map of IHG properties by Travel is Free, and the Hotel Hustle, which we've talked about before. The key thing here is that this is potentially a really good deal to save a few $100s on upcoming hotel stays that you have at IHG. So bottom line here is, if you think you've got a pretty highly likely hotel stay coming up with IHG, check out the availability. And just for reference, IHG Hotel Group includes Intercontinentals, Hotel Indigo, Holiday Inn is obviously a big one, plus all of their subsidiaries, Holiday Inn Express, Crown Plaza, which is a pretty nice kind of middle-of-the-road hotel. And then there's Candlewood Suites and Staybridge Suites. So those are kind of the main ones. There's a few other ones that you can check out on the IHG website, but nice portfolio of hotels and a really good opportunity to get paid nights essentially by buying points at a discount. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about with this IHG promo is that the 100% bonus is actually a interesting way to top up your United balance. And so I just wanted to give you a quick example. IHG is currently offering a 50% transfer bonus to United. Now, the ratio is generally really crappy, and it's now just a little bit less crappy. So it's usually 10,000 IHG points gives you 2,000 United. It's now up to 10,000 gives you 3,000 United. But I wanted to put that in perspective, because let's say that you need to buy 3,000 United points to complete a redemption. Let's say you're going to use that availability I talked about earlier from San Francisco to Auckland, and you're 3,000 miles short. Well, if you just buy those 3,000 miles from United, it's going to cost you $112.88, which is a huge ripoff. However, you could just buy 10,000 IHG points and convert them into United points, and the 10,000 IHG points is only going to cost you $67.50. So you're saving almost half by going through IHG. Now, the last important thing to remember here is it's not a good idea to do this if you actually already found availability and you're ready to go, because those points are likely going to take a bit of time to post with the transfer. The IHG points post really fast when you buy them. It's, I think, about 48 hours. But the then transferring from IHG to United is going to take some time. So how I'd recommend doing this is, if you don't have Chase points that you can top up your United account, and you don't have other means, and you just know that you're just short of a redemption threshold, like you've got, you want to travel, to Europe, and you've got 27,000 points and you need 30,000 for a one-way, okay, that's how you get the extra 3,000 points. Anyways, links to buy from IHG, as well as some explanation of the arbitrage with transferring over to United, will be included in the show notes, which again are at abroaders.com/Marriott. All right, so I've got two more things to cover before we jump into the core content. One correction from last week. Looks like we announced a 1,000 United point deal with a subscription to the Wall Street Journal. We definitely blew it on that one. It had already expired by the time the show aired, so really sorry about that, guys. And to make it up to you, I've got a couple of quick hits here, just news to jet, if you will. If you're interested, just head over to the show notes and you can get more detail. There are 1,000 Aeroplan points I know for sure that are available, that are up for grabs. I did it the other night. You got to do this by November 15th. But this is if you enroll in Fairmont President's Club. Fairmont is I believe, a hotel chain. If you enroll in their loyalty program, they will give you 1,000 Aeroplan points. There's actually a bunch you can pick from, but I picked Aeroplan, and the rate was pretty attractive for that. Second thing is you can earn an easy 1,000 IHG points by signing up and telling them when your birthday is. So if you haven't heard of that before, that's a nice little tactic. I definitely don't think my birthday's saved in my profile, and it turns out that they just send you 1,000 points on your birthday. So head over to your IHG account and do that if you are logging into that anytime today for any of the stuff we've gone over. And last but not least, this is a really small one, but it takes about 10 seconds. If you pre-register for the new Aer Lingus loyalty program, you can get 250 free Avios points. It's only worth about $4, so don't go crazy over this, but it took me less than 10 seconds to do. It's name and email. Link is in the show notes, and all you got to do is do that. I assume at some point you are going to have to get the email that they send you and do something else. But at the very least, to put yourself in the running, it takes 10 seconds, so it might be worth a couple seconds of your time. Okay, time to jump to a listener question. This one comes from Franny, and it's a really good one, so I wanted to share it. Franny wrote in to ask about downgrading her Barclays Arrival Plus card. She called Barclays, just like we suggested, and she said that when she talked to the representative, they were not willing to waive the annual fee or offer a statement credit or give her any points in exchange for keeping the card open. So she did say she used the word cancel and just for whatever reason wasn't able to get any offers. And they did offer to downgrade the card to the Barclay Arrival, and she just wasn't really sure whether that was a good choice or not, and in particular if she'd have any issues with her miles. So I wanted to follow up and answer that question. So first of all, I definitely do recommend downgrading the card as your next option if you're not able to get a statement credit or get enough points to make it worth paying the fee. And it won't hurt the value of your points with the Barclays Arrival. The only difference between the Arrival Plus and the Arrival in terms of the value of your points is that the Arrival card only has a 5% rebate, whereas the Arrival Plus gives you 10% of your points back. So Franny, let's say with somebody that has 40,000 points, so that's $400 towards travel. You're going to get those $400, but then you're going to get another 4,000 points back afterwards because of that 10% rebate. Well, the reason it's not really that important is that both of those have the minimum redemption of $100. So you can't actually use 4,000 points. You have to have a minimum of 10,000 points to redeem for travel, which is a really crappy thing that Barclays decided to do. It used to be a minimum of 2,500 points to redeem for a $25 credit. So it makes the travel credit option quite a bit weaker than it was before. So to wrap this up for Franny, definitely it does make sense to downgrade to the Arrival card to avoid that $89 annual fee with the Arrival Plus. Since you already hung up and decided to send us this awesome question, you do have another shot to try a different rep. So by all means, when you call back, give it one more shot. Say you want to cancel. See if you can get transferred to the retention department. And if so, maybe they'll give you a better offer than they gave you the first time. But if not, I would definitely encourage you to downgrade that card. Doing so is going to preserve your line of credit, and it's also going to keep the history of your account open. It's going to anchor that account and keep it as a no annual fee account, which means you can keep it open forever, which is going to be really powerful for your credit score. So two big advantages there in terms of your utilization, which makes up 30% of your score, and your age of accounts, which makes up 15%. So it's much better to downgrade the card than to close it. So that's what AJ and I would recommend that you do. And I'd love to hear back from you, especially if you're able to turn it around this second time. Two quick tips that are sort of specific to the Barclays Arrival Plus card. But if the frontline rep isn't giving you any offers, you might mention that they took away TripIt Pro, which was one of the great benefits that came with the card. And they also changed that minimum redemption from $100, from $25 to $100. And you just really felt like that took a lot of the value out of the card and doesn't really make it worth paying the $89 fee. I don't know if that's going to make a difference, but maybe just citing a few benefits that were taken away might make them a little bit more likely to override that decision or make an exception for you. Anyways, best of luck to you, Franny, and thank you so much for sending in the questions. If you've got a question, the best way to get it to us is by sending it over to Erik, E-R-I-K, @abroaders.com. I will try and reply back to everyone. I'm usually pretty good about that, but if it's something that could help lots of people, we will feature it on the show as well. All right, that does it for the news and updates. On to the core content. All right, so as I said at the top of the show, today we're going to dive into the new information available from the Starwood Preferred Guests and Marriott merger. It has officially closed after clearing regulatory hurdles last Friday, September 23rd. And so this gives SPG and Marriott Rewards members access to over 5,700 hotels around the world. Now, there's a couple of major developments that I want to dive into today. Number one is that you can now transfer points between the two programs. One SPG point is worth 3 Marriott points. Number two is the reciprocal benefits that have been announced. So if you have gold status with Starwood, you now can get gold status with Marriott and vice versa. And same idea, platinum status with each of the hotels matches to platinum status with the other. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how each of those new breakthroughs is potentially going to affect your strategy, both for hotel stays and for what you do with your points. To start out, let's talk about the new transfer between programs. So I think the biggest thing that being able to transfer points opens up is that you can now use Marriott points to book at SPG properties and SPG points to book at Marriott properties. And while that may seem self-evident, it's actually a really important breakthrough, especially from the Starwood side, which hopefully is the program that lots of you have been acquiring points, at least as much as possible, because those Starwood points are now, before the biggest challenge was lots of cities don't have a Starwood hotel. Lots of times that, there's just not availability. And so there's a ton of new opportunities to redeem points at Marriott. And with the conversion rate, it means that the most expensive Marriott hotel room, a free night is only going to be 15,000 Starwood points, which is cheaper than the most expensive Starwood hotel in Starwood points. And the cheapest Marriott category is only going to be 2,000 Starwood points. And that's because of the 1 to 3. So again, basically Marriott hotels range from 6,000 to 45, which means that they're going to be 2,000 to 15. And then also you can use your SPG points at Ritz-Carlton. A little bit higher pricing chart overall for Ritz-Carlton, but much, much nicer hotels generally than the Marriotts as well. And those are going to range from 10,000 to just over 23,000 SPG points per night. Now, obviously, that does go back the other way as well. So with Marriott points, you can transfer those to SPG and redeem for SPG free nights. I think the one of the big benefits there is the SPG has 2,000 and 3,000 point award stays at their lowest category hotels. So if you can find those are going to be way, way cheaper than the cheapest Marriott, nights that you're practically going to be able to find. So if you're looking at transferring from Marriott back to SPG, I would kind of focus my attention on those low tier SPG properties. But for the basic points transfer, I think the big takeaway here is that you can move your points back and forth as much as you want, and that it's going to be a big, big deal in terms of being able to get access to lots of hotel nights. Now, the other thing that's really important is if you have a lot of Marriott points, you can now move those to SPG, albeit at a difficult rate. I think the rate's much better going from SPG to Marriott, but if you've got a lot of Marriott points, you can move them the other way and now get access to a bunch of new airline partners, which is super exciting. But before you pull the trigger on that, hold tight, because I do want to share a couple of pretty cool arbitrage opportunities that we found through the Marriott flights and hotel combo pack. They're called Hotel Plus Air Package, and there's a bunch of different rates. We're going to get into that in just a second, so stick with me. Next up, I wanted to talk just really briefly about the reciprocal benefits. It means that now you get treated as if you have status with Marriott, even if you're just an SPG Elite member. So it's really nice, especially for those who have the Amex Platinum card, which automatically grants SPG Gold status. You now also have Marriott Gold status, which is actually a little bit better than SPG Gold status. Marriott status is going to give you free breakfast at any of their hotel properties, and it's also going to give you complimentary Wi-Fi access. So gold status is pretty nice with Marriott in comparison to low tier status for some of the other hotels. So keep that in mind, and it's really easy to get that status matched once you've linked up your programs. So I'm not going to get into a ton of detail on what's included in the elite statuses, because that's been covered in a ton of other articles, and it's really easy to look up if you're curious. But one thing I did want to mention is that if you do, let's say, have Starwood Gold status through Amex Platinum or just through stays with Starwood, and you decide to stay at Marriott, you're not only going to get Marriott equivalent benefits at the gold level, but you're also not necessarily giving up earning SPG points. Now, it is really important to keep in mind that despite the integration and reciprocal benefits, you still have to earn status in each program individually. So in other words, if you stay at Marriott, you're earning Marriott status and Marriott points. If you stay at SPG, you're earning SPG status and SPG points. So there's no crossover there yet. However, what I just said probably doesn't make any sense to you, that if you are an SPG loyalist and you want SPG points, you might be better off staying at a Marriott hotel. And the reason is that if you've got that gold status, you're not going to be affected so much by, not getting benefits because of the reciprocal benefits. But Marriott gives you 10 points per dollar spent. So if you spend $300 at a Marriott hotel, you're going to get 3,000 Marriott points. And by converting those, you're actually going to get 1,000 SPG points, which is a really good deal for a $300 stay. Now, if you spent $300 at a Starwood hotel, you're generally going to get 600 SPG points. So overall, the earning rates are a little bit better by staying at Marriott. And there's also a lot more Marriott hotels. So at least in the immediate future, before anything happens to transfer partners and any of the other more advanced stuff I'm going to get into in a second, one of the best ways you can actually earn Starwood points right now, besides the Amex Starwood SPG card, is by staying at Marriott hotels and then converting those points at the 3-to-1 ratio. Moving on, I want to talk about some interesting opportunities with the hotel and flights air packages. So basically the way this works is that Marriott allows you to pay a set number of Marriott points and get 7 nights at a Marriott hotel plus a set of frequent flyer miles with a bunch of different partner programs. So an example of that would be if you want to stay at a category 1 through 5 and you need 55,000 air miles, frequent flyer miles, you spend 200,000 Marriott points and you get 7 nights plus the 55,000 air miles. So essentially, you're getting a package altogether. And the reason this is so cool is that there are some opportunities when you consider using SPG points at the 1 SPG becomes 3 Marriott points, that you can actually get a better transfer ratio to airline miles than you can with SPG using the Marriott hotel and airfare package. So in other words, you could essentially get 7 free nights at a hotel plus a set number of frequent flyer miles, and you could throw away the 7 free nights and it's still better in terms of the number of airline miles that you earned than it would have been if you used the SPG transfer at the 20,000 miles gives you 25,000 airline miles. So let me give you an example here. United, by the way, has a little bit of a sweeter deal than the other airlines that are included in this perk. So United gets a slight, I think it's maybe a 10% or a little bit better than 10% bonus on top of it when you transfer and you convert the airline portion to United. But the airlines that are available are British Airways, Delta, JetBlue, United, Southwest, Virgin Atlantic, American, Hawaiian, JAL, Air Berlin, Air Canada, Air France, Alaska, Frontier, Lufthansa, and Air China. So there's a bunch of options here. Now you should keep in mind that the transfers are not instant. So this is sort of, you're in the same boat as you would be with Starwood Preferred Guests, where you may have to wait a little while. Most of them are going to happen. Some of them are going to happen in 3 business days. Some of them 1 to 2 weeks. Some of them longer than 2 weeks. There's only a couple in the longer than 2 weeks, and I'm going to post the list that's got sort of the reference for when those post. But the couple of things that I wanted to share are what happens when you transfer points over from Starwood Preferred Guests to Marriott, use them for a package, and then get those airline miles, how that works out. Now, number one, Marriott has a couple of partners that are different than Starwood. So Starwood does have United as a partner, but the ratio is really bad. So it's a 1 to 2 transfer ratio with SPG to United, meaning that 2 SPG points are required for 1 United mile. So that's a really bad deal. And then the other one that comes to mind is Southwest, because SPG does not transfer to Southwest. And obviously a lot of people really value the Southwest miles, especially the ones that count towards the companion pass. So let me tell you this, right now, if you have 90,000 Starwood points or more, you've got enough to just buy a companion pass. And you also get 7 free nights at a Marriott category 1 through 5 hotel, which you can use or throw away if you prefer. But 90,000 star points will buy you the companion pass. 90,000 star points will also get you around 132,000 United miles. So again, you're throwing out a bunch of free nights, which of course you want to try and use if you can. But consider that normally 90,000 Starwood points would give you 45,000 United miles. Now you're getting 132. So it's quite a bit better than even a 1-to-1 transfer ratio. So these flight and hotel packages are a super good deal. I definitely encourage you guys to take a look at these. I'm going to post a link in the show notes to a couple of articles that explain in more detail how this works. But basically, you're choosing the category level. So you want to try and get the lowest category level. And then the second component is you just pick how many airline miles you're going after. And they come in increments of 50,000, 70, 100, or 120,000. And like I said, United gets a little bit of a bonus. So if you use the 120,000 air mile package, you're going to actually get 132,000 United miles and 120,000 of all the other airlines that I mentioned. So some pretty awesome deals. And again, the way to do this is you would transfer your SPG points to Marriott and then redeem one of those nights and flights Marriott packages. I believe you have to do that by phone. And one final thing that came from Frequent Miler. I'm going to definitely link to this post. There's a ton of good information in it, but it turns out that there's actually some 5-night packages that are available to some members. It's not totally clear. It's supposed to be for people that have a timeshare, but elites have been granted this benefit. Some phone reps might not know what the rules are. But anyways, if you don't really care about the hotel nights so much, and you're just using this to get a better transfer ratio on the points, you may be able to actually get a 5-night rate rather than a 7-night rate, which is going to save you some Marriott points up front. So instead of 270,000, maybe you only need 220,000 or something like that. So definitely worth looking into seeing if you can get the 5-night package. And you can do that by calling Marriott. They're going to be able to tell you what's available. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. Thank you guys so much for being with me, and apologies from AJ for not being able to make it. He should be back next week. In the meantime, I want to leave you guys with something to jam to. This week's international jam is by a California-based group called Fits and the Tantrums. The track is called Hand Clap. Definitely got my feet tapping and hands clapping a little bit as well. I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you next week, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wherever you are, travel safe.
I want the good life every good night. You're a hot one to hold, 'cause you don't even know. I can make your hands clap. Said I can make your hands clap.
Hey Broaders, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Erik or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.
Don't even know.